There's a saying that says that you can't lead yourself if you're lying to yourself.
More stuff, more money, more something. There was not a direction. There was no purpose. There was no higher perspective. Well, I would say the most important learning I had when, let's say, reflecting on my previous life was the missing value system. Stay open-minded and allow people to be the way they are.
Hey, welcome to the Relevant Development Podcast. I am your host, Juan. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Today, our guest is Markus, and Markus is coming from a different spot in the world. Markus, welcome, and let everybody know where you are joining us from.
Thank you very much, Juan, for having me and for having the chance to be here on your show. Well, I'm German, living in Germany, in the pretty most western part of Germany, already almost on the Dutch border. So it's straight at the border from Germany to the Netherlands.
Nice. Beautiful. Well, thank you for joining us. Power of technology, right? That we can communicate with somebody halfway across the world at the same place, at the same, well, shouldn't say at the same time. Yes, at the same time. But what time is it right now where you are?
Well, it's 10 o'clock, 10 p.m.
There you go. And we're 1 p.m. in the afternoon here. So yeah, we'll do this and then you can head to bed. Are you, last time we talked, you said you were a pretty late night, like a night owl.
Yes, I am definitely. But today, for some reason, I'm somewhat tired. I was traveling over the past days in Switzerland. I had some pretty tough nights. I'm not sure. I think it was full moon the other night, and I was waking up every hour and didn't sleep really well. And then it occurred again last night. And so I'm pretty tired tonight, but I'm good to go for the show. That's okay. It's not a
all right. All right, beautiful. So let our listeners know what you do, what's your experience in the leadership space.
Well, let's start not at the very beginning, but at a very pivotal point in my life. I used to work in sales, in different types of sales of technology products and services, was dealing with large customers, very large projects, as well as with small type of business, startup type of environment. And during that time, I was traveling quite a lot. What I was running at the time is little businesses, many countries across Europe, partly across half of the world. And at one point, after doing that for quite some years, my body was not working anymore. My body didn't want to work. My mind wasn't able to function. And on a drive from Germany, 300, or from my place in Germany, 300 kilometers to the south, where my office was at the time, I wasn't able to drive anymore all of a sudden. My body started to shake and I was really feeling bad. I had to take a break at a service station and was standing there for 3.5 hours. It was bloody cold outside. It was minus 10 Celsius somewhat. And I was just crying. I was just not able to function anymore. And the whole life I've lived so far felt so destroyed. I personally felt so destroyed, so wrong. And in that moment, after I was really recovering slightly, I decided to not continue driving to the office, but to take a U-turn and drive back home and find someone to help me. In that moment, I had, fortunately, a very good friend of the family who I could immediately go to, and we had a conversation, and she recommended me to go to a therapist, which then helped me in the following 3 years by doing both my therapy, but also my education as a psychological coach. And that was the starting point, actually, from everything that makes me today.
Nice. What was a big pivotal point that you've learned that has helped you in this journey?
Well, I would say the most important learning I had when, let's say, reflecting on my previous life was the missing value system. I was just aiming and striving for more, but just more stuff, more money, more something. There was not a direction. There was no purpose. There was no higher perspective and deeper goal I wanted to go after in order to have a certain direction, to create certain values around it that will be important to me in my life in order to contribute something to the world. Actually, that was completely missing. And I think after that therapy / coaching education, I developed my value system, which is still in place today. And I reflect on it frequently, and it helps me to stay on track.
I wanted to go, what is that value? What's that value system? But I think where I would prefer to go is those things in place help you to get to where you needed to be. But prior to that, there was things that was putting you into that spot. What things did you, because like there's a saying that says like, it's not the last pizza that will kill you. It's the days and days and weeks that led to months and years. What were those quote unquote pieces of pizza in a sense for you that made you have to pull over and be in that much hurt? What were those things not in place? What were those things that you were doing that maybe you shouldn't have done? Like what got you down that road? Yeah. Not thinking that it was taking you down this road.
Yeah, well, I would say the most important thing and the most fundamental thing actually was that I didn't feel enough, like as I was in that time. And everything I was trying to do, everything I was trying to gain, the money I was earning, the position I was holding, the cars I was driving, for me was just to show to the outside world how important I am, how strong I am, how good I am, and what I can deliver in terms of my professional performance, which was my, let's say, how do you say that in English? It's my area of compensation for not feeling enough.
Got it. What do you think led you to that, or what were maybe like the outside influences that made you think that that's what you were supposed to do?
Well, I think it's very deep rooted in me. Or it was very deep rooted in me, and it took me quite some time to figure that out. That came then during the therapy, during the coaching education. Then when I started to peel off all the different layers of the onion, so to say, of my soul and my mind, which helped me to understand so many things about what has driven me, whether it was my parents who were teaching me certain things, their parents teaching them certain things, and digging into that made many things very clear to me.
What does one have to do, and for the sake of you and I both being men and it being more difficult for men, what has to happen for a man to say, I need help? Because stereotypically speaking, we don't ask for help, right? Man up, right? The saying of man up, and you just bite your lip, drive on, be tough, right? What has to happen for that switch to say, okay, I can't do this by myself. I feel broken. I need to do something. What has to happen, or in your case, what had to happen for you to realize that?
Yeah, for me, I think it was exactly what happened in that moment, that I could not drive anymore. My body started to shake. I was starting to freeze. I was just not able to continue. I was just done with everything. And I was, you must imagine, I was sitting in a car. The engine was shut off. It was bitterly cold outside. And I was sitting there just with a shirt and my tie and my not very, very warm clothes I had in that moment. And I was just freezing, but I wasn't really able to feel the coldness. It was just that moment and this experience that I think I needed to feel. And that made it so clear to me that I could not continue. I knew exactly that the only thing that would help me is a change in my direction of life.
So what changed?
Well, a lot of things. A lot of things. I got
What was a good starting point? What would be the start? What was the starting point, either for advice that you're giving to somebody or in your life? Like what was the starting point to say, okay, this should be step one?
Step one was to me, and I think this is the general truth for everybody who feels the need to change something, is to be brutally honest to yourself and to brutally open up yourself with all the mistakes to the people around you. I had to become completely open to my wife at the time, which is my ex-wife today. We got divorced not right after that time, but a little bit later, which was also part of a development, I would say. And today she's one of my best friends, you know, which is a very good development. I'm really proud of that I learned how to manage also such situations, right? And this is a very significant experience and something which as I said, I'm really proud of.
Beautiful. It's a great story. In doing this, you talk about development and having to knowing that you needed to make a change. I know that you talk about if you want to elevate your leadership effectiveness, there's some changes or some things that you need to do. What, as far as leadership, and it could be personal leadership or it could be leadership over a team, to be highly effective leader, what are the changes that need to take place?
Well, I first of all, I believe that if you want to be a good leader to others, you first need to be a good leader to yourself. That's prerequisite number one. If you haven't been able to learn how to lead yourself, to develop a few criteria in your life, which are a good purpose. Why are you doing what you are doing? What it is that you want to achieve? What is the contribution you would add to the world? Let's call it that way. And as long as you haven't defined those things for yourself and build a certain system of habits, routines, and activities around it that would help you to sustain you in that movement, you wouldn't never be able to lead yourself properly, I would say. There's always a risk for you to fall into the traps of life, to just go after the money, just go after the reputation, just go after whatever. You know, these nice things we all want to have, but fundamentally not are the most important things.
Right. There's a saying that says that you can't lead yourself if you're lying to yourself.
Exactly. And then let's say if you have built that kind of system for yourself, then you also have to start building some abilities to clearly communicate your vision or your goal, your purpose, to excite people, to win people, to convince people. It's not about, let's say, getting people on board somehow. No, it is just this level of excitement that you are expressing about your desire that makes people following you. And that is a skill that I think many people need to learn in terms of communication. And as we talk tonight, I'm German, native German speaker. English is my second language. And there is probably some differences in how I speak things in English and that native English speakers do understand. But what I need to train and to educate myself is to improve my English so that more and more people in the English language area are able to understand what I really mean.
Right. In your leadership experience and the things that you've learned, leadership constantly changes. Because people consistently change. And, back in the day, people wanted a boss. And then you find that people want a leader. Now people are looking it to be more of a mentor. Before, people in the job wanted retirement, right? Give me, here in the United States, it's, a 401k, it's retirement, put money into stocks, things like that. And now you find people are like, give me childcare or pay for my student loans, right? So things have changed. The way people want their leaders and expect their leaders to show up constantly changes. What are some changes that you're seeing or that you are starting to see that we need to stay ahead of? Like, what changes in order to stay ahead of the curve? What do we need to know in that leadership space?
Well, I think that is different for many countries, or the reasons for that are different in many countries. But one criteria I can see with so many people is that they aren't able to take full responsibility for themselves and for their own lives. In Germany, we have a social system that pays for many, many things, in particular to people who aren't able, so to say, to serve themselves and to find proper jobs. And they get different types of support payments for different types of services. And people take that for granted. People start relying on that. And this, I think, is a very big problem. People need to learn to self-sustain their life and to make sure that they are able to maintain their lives the way they want to live it. And what I think we see today in many areas, that more and more people, luckily, start thinking and doing things in addition to what they have done so far. So they start side hustles, they think seriously about certain businesses, building them up and these kind of things. And this is a good development, because it's an attitude thing. When you just want to start doing things that help you to live a better life.
I think a lot of times people use that as a crutch, right? There's a saying that says, if you don't use it, you lose it, right? If I consistently lean on the government, right, or this assistance over and over and over again, I rely on it so much, I forget how to work. I forget how to think for myself. I forget how to struggle. And sometimes in struggling, there's some power behind struggling, right? It lights a fire under my butt to get moving, right? And so when we use it as a crutch, and then we forget to walk. And if we forget to walk, then we forget how to stand up for ourselves. And so I definitely agree with you that there's systems in place to help, but we shouldn't be using it as a crutch and then fully relying on it, because then you can't stand for yourself, then how are you going to stand for anything?
I totally agree with that statement. When you get more from the government than you would get from a job, why would you go for the job?
And just switching that over into leadership, if you're constantly relying on your leader to bail you out, if you're constantly looking at them to fix everything and to problem solve everything, and you don't do it for yourself, then you become more of a problem than you are a person of the workplace. Right.
Absolutely. I mean, this is also the wrong understanding about what leadership really means. It's not the leader for you to fix your problems or your situation or make things better for you. It's for you to get inspired of what the leader is telling and doing and aiming, for you to, let's say, develop the same kind of attitude and the same kind of ambition and the same kind of purpose for your life that helps you to live a better life.
Right. I noticed that you have a similar theme behind everything. You talk about finding this purpose, right? It's outside of you. It's bigger than you. You were looking for the cars and the job and the pay for you to look good to maybe other people, but your success is in finding purpose, which is bigger than you, outside of you, right? Finding purpose or to help out maybe something bigger or better than you. There is something more. If you would just have a journey that is not, I don't want to say broad, but basically outside of you, like think outside of yourself. And I know that I believe you've written a book, or is that what that is behind you? What would somebody learn from reading that book if they wanted to get better outside of themselves?
It is kind of a process how they can get in more or even in total control of their life by doing certain things and doing those certain things in a certain way. Well, it doesn't matter really if people are materialistically well positioned, they are good in place, they have nice salaries, they live in a nice house, they have a good car and all these kind of things. They can still be very unhappy with all those things, which is pretty much the experience I learned myself. And then in order to become happier and live a better life, you just need to make sure that you understand certain things that are working enough, that it is very important, for instance, that we control which type of information we allow us to consume, to make sure that we focus our thoughts in a certain direction and allow ourselves only thoughts with a certain quality, let's say, and then make sure that we understand that we are suffering on today is all related to some experience, feelings we have from our past, and that by having the right thoughts, we can develop new emotions, new feelings. And after that, we also can create new actions that would allow us to achieve different things than we have achieved so far. And these kind of processes, this is a main part of my book.
I love that. It's something that I've counseled people on, or even in certain staffing issues where staff are always negative. Well, then you start to ask, let me ask you a personal question. What do you listen to or watch when you're home? Like, do you consume entertainment? Do you watch TV? And yes. Okay. So what do you watch? And it's drama. It is negativity. And then you look at what they listen to music wise, and it's negativity. And then who they hang out with, and it's just drama and all these different things. It's like, well, what you watch and listen to on TV, what you watch and listen to in music, and what you watch and listen to in your friend circle is all negative. So no wonder you are the way that you are. So when you talk about this and speak about these thoughts or these outside influences, it does just that. It influences you not only in your actions, but it influences your thoughts, and where your actions are going to deem from your thoughts anyways. Like, to me, that's the starting point with everything. It's the thoughts and what's influencing those things. This is your environment around you.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said that better. Our thoughts is one of the very few things that we really can control. Yeah? The only thing we need to do is we need to make sure that we take on the right information that allow us to build the good thoughts, the better thoughts.
So when you talk about bringing the right information, what are some examples of that? Like, let's say I'm struggling with that, what would be your advice to me when it comes to what do I get around me, or what is it? What are those top, 3 or 4 things?
Yeah, well, what I personally did, I went to a lot of trainings and personal development kind of master classes and stuff like that. That helped me at the time to first of all get into a different environment, a different group of people, a different set of people. So completely different to the ones I was really dealing with before. That gave me a change. It was not very convenient in the very beginning, but I got used to it, and I got I got really familiar with these different type of thinking. Then I watched a lot of videos on YouTube and watched programs from famous personal development. I wouldn't call them gurus, because it's old wisdom, let's say, what these people are telling. It is just being presented in different ways by each and every different trainer and coach and mentor, like I am. The wisdom, I used to say, what I've written in my book is not my wisdom, it's my interpretation and my way of expressing it.
Right.
So, and I'm then reading books, of course, focusing on these type of, let's say, information and development material that helps me to start believing in me and start believing in that I can change myself and that I can, let's say, become a complete different person.
Yeah. There's a saying that says, talking about that, the wisdom from all these people, there's a saying that says, there's nothing new under the sun, right? People have been saying this for years. There's stuff that you hear, whether you believe it or not, that are actually biblical. They're biblical teachings. And it's like, this is really good information. Then you tell them where they could find it in the Bible, and they're like, well, I don't believe in the Bible. Well, the lesson that the lesson that you love is actually, that's where it starts to originate from. But to maybe give us some of the things that have helped you, what are some of those either courses or instructors or even books that you've read, or authors, or people that you've listened to? What are maybe some names that maybe we know or maybe we don't know here in the States that have helped mold you into the better person that you are today?
Yeah, the first source of information I would like to mention is what you just said already, Juan, is the Bible. The Bible, what I had to do with that is I had to disconnect it from the institutional church.
Yeah.
Well, the Bible, they just claimed the Bible to be their book, right? And it isn't. The Bible is I would say, the oldest philosophical masterpiece in the world, and the same is true for the Quran, for all the different books for different religions. It's always the same type of story. It is just being instrumentalized at a certain point for certain objectives. Right. Then what my favorite is, I listened and learned a lot from Bob Proctor.
Yep.
Bob
great one.
I love him. I really love him. I also learned a lot from Jim Rohn.
Oh, to me, that's the king. Besides Proctor, Jim Rohn is like the king. He has a great, different but voice. The way he talks, and he long words, and even some of his sarcasm is you can consume it, even though he's old school.
Yes.
If anyone was to Google him, they're like, really, that old guy?
Mm-hmm.
However, man, what a wealth of knowledge. And a little funny, being a little smart aleck at times is very consumable.
I totally agree. I'm very, what is a good English expression? I think he touched me.
Yeah.
Just the way he expresses. I like these kind of intellectual way of putting things. And this gives me more challenges. I first have to understand what he is expressing, and then I also have to learn how he puts it, so that I have more challenges, which I like very much. Yeah, then I listen also to Tony Robbins.
Yep.
I watched Simon Sinek as well. Simon is, I like the connection because I'm working in the corporate world with customers in the corporate world as well. And Simon has this connection from changing leadership, understanding and meaning in the corporate world a lot in his books and also his speeches and trainings. So those are a few I'm really after. And then from a more spiritual perspective, I'm following Dr. Joe Dispenza a lot with all the meditation stuff. He is a person I really enjoy to follow.
I wrote that down so I can look into that, because that's one that I haven't heard of. You talk about your Simon Sinek and his helping your growth in the corporate world. What is some of your teachings or advice that you give those people in the corporate world when it comes to leadership that maybe you find that is missing when you're coaching somebody? You're like, hey, if you want to be at this level, or if you want to be a high performer, you need to know this. What is that?
Get rid of your fear. There is no reason to fear. Whatever things you are afraid of, you could lose your job, you could lose your car, you could lose your assistant, you could lose your office, all these kind of things that you don't need to fear about it. There's so much more available for you on this planet if you change your attitude to a more meaningful, productive, and valuable type of approach in how you lead your teams, that you don't need to worry about those things. There is no competition. There is no need for fear.
Yeah. You spoke about, real quick right now, you talked about leading your teams. How can we collaborate more in the workplace to have a better team? I know that, and I know people aren't going to know what I'm saying when I say this, but in your pod match, you talk about, some of the questions being about how can we collaborate. I'm trying to find the question, but talking about collaborating to have a better team. What is something that we can do for that effectiveness?
I think we need to trust more. We need to put more trust into people we are working with.
To give it to you the way you have it on here, what practices do you believe are crucial for fostering a collaborative environment in workplaces or teams?
It is, as I said before, putting more trust into people. That requires first that you have more faith, I would say, in yourself, in what you are doing, that you are doing the right things. And you can only have faith in the things you are doing if those things are the right things. Whatever you do, whatever you try to reach, do it from a position of love. Some not sexual talking, right. gender related love, but really the biblical interpretation of love. Right. Do the things with a good intention. Make sure that you respect people, allow people to do their things, allow people to experiment, to make mistakes, and to learn from those mistakes, and guide them through those learnings and through those processes in order to be a good leader.
Yeah, you said a couple of things. I love this because you said to love one another, and not in that sexual sense. My hope is that everybody understands that, right? And the love that I thought of when you said that is biblical as well. and it's called agape love. And I looked up the definition just so people can understand what agape love is. Agape love, which is the most often crowned as the highest form of love from Christ, is the kind of love and action that shows empathy, extends the desire for good of the beloved, wants the best, extends help or demonstrates good intentions, and is intended for everyone.
Yes.
I love that.
Me as well. How do you spell that?
Right now, because I want to make sure that I gave you the right spelling. Agape.
Agape love. Okay.
Yeah.
That's I will dig into that. I will have to understand that better. Yeah.
You talked about trusting one another and having faith. How does one, maybe those in leadership or even just a worker and coworker, to each other or to their boss, find trust when they might have felt I've gotten burnt by this person, they pulled one over on me, right? How does somebody gain trust again, either from both sides? I've lost trust in you, so how do I give trust, and then how do I gain trust?
I think the most important thing is to have open conversations and have open communication, to give people the chance to explain certain things, because something has led to the fact you are not trusting me anymore, right? So something must have happened. And the same vice versa, of course. And the most important thing for me, and the starting point for regaining that trust, is to have a conversation about why happened what happened, and how do you open up yourself? How do I open up myself in order to explain you what happens? And then we can start building little things, little interactions, little activities, providing trust. And how do you say that? If you stay within that trust you gave me, that I don't break it, that I don't misuse it, that helps then building up it again. And the most important thing is honesty and openness.
I love that you said something earlier, and I think the listeners, those of us here in the United States, and hopefully you will pass this podcast episode to those people in Germany. But you have a process. I can see it. I can hear it. And you talked about, even with Simon Sinek and Jim Rohn, you do a really good job. And there's a want and a desire in your heart and in your thought process. I want to become better. I hear these messages. I have to then not only just hear it, I have to understand it. And there's going to be words or phrases or analogies that I don't understand. Let me put it through this filter, translate it, if you will, so I can understand it better in German, right? And then it processes. Like, I think it's just awesome that you've said, this is going to take a lot of work and I'm going to do it anyways, as opposed to the people who are probably in America who, understand English, speak English fluently. It's their first language. Hear somebody speaks, and then it was like, oh, that's cool, I'll remember that. But someone like Markus is like, no, I'm gonna eat it, I'm gonna digest it, and I'm gonna bring out and again translate it into something amazing. I just love the work that you do for a lesson for your betterment. So I want to see if you can do this in reverse for us, because I want to kind of hear it from you language wise. Is there a saying in German that you live by, that we can in real time kind of translate that into English? So to help me do kind of the same thing, is there something that is like German, maybe in culture, that's a life lesson that you live by, that now we have to think, okay, how does this translate into English? How can I learn the way that Markus learns?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Do you want me to say it in German so that?
Yeah, let's process this. Yeah.
Okay, then the first thing, and I think this is a pretty good match, because that's what I really believe from the deepest of my heart. It's the title of my book, and the title of my book is "True Leadership Comes from Within," and in German that would mean "Wahre Führung kommt von innen." So everything is within us. We have all the resources, we have all the potential within us. We don't need. We actually, to really unfold the abilities that are sleeping in us, we don't need anything from the outside world. We just need to start this process, nothing else. And of course, you and I know both that there is a reality. We need to earn some money to have some food and all these kind of things. But in order to become a better self, we just need to unfold our capacities, abilities, faculties.
Yeah, and it's inside of it. I tell people too, when I do trainings, I'm like, I'm going to tell you everything that you already know. I'm just going to wake it up in your thought process, in your heart. I'm going to ask you questions, You're going to give me answers, and then you're going to say, oh, shoot, this is really good. Well, you knew this already. I just woke it up, right?
Yeah.
So I love that, the leadership is within. I've had conversations with some people, I don't want to say heated debates, but, the difference in, or the saying that there are natural born leaders. And I made the comment of, somebody doesn't come out of the womb, a baby doesn't come out of the womb and go, oh, it's a boy or a girl, and it's a leader. Like, it's developed. Do we have it in us? Yes. But it almost takes I don't want to say an outside source, but it does take another leader or somebody who's going to help us to ask us the right questions. But in essence, it's already in here. Yeah. We just have to take the time to bring it out. And sometimes it takes another person to press us a little bit, right? It's like having an orange and there's juice in there, but sometimes you just need to be squeezed a little bit to get that out. It's already in there. We just
That's a nice picture. I like that. Yeah. That's very, very good. And then the second thing, I mean, I totally agree with what you just described. And then there is a second thing. Once you have really unfold all these faculties, abilities, and talents that are sleeping inside you, then you need to have someone who keeps you using it, who motivates or helps you to constantly stay in that process, because you need a certain while of doing things in order to establish a new habit, right? It takes some time. And it's very helpful for many people to just have someone at their side that reminds them that corrects certain things that they are doing, who is there to answer questions and these kind of things, in order to be able to make sure that this new habit can really manifest.
Yeah, I love that. 2 questions before I let you go. What is one of your favorite pieces out of your book?
I tell my story in my book, and I think my biggest asset is not the fact that I've learned all what I learned since that time. My biggest asset is the experience that led me learning all those things. That is the one thing what I really like, and I tell that from from 2 different perspectives. I tell it in a personal context. That is a story I told you at the beginning. And then I also have an organizational perspective where I look into a corporate organization and try to understand or try to express and explain the problem why change initiatives in large organizations don't work, because the organization is not interested to change the people or to help the people change. They can't change the people, but they are not even interested to help people who want to change themselves, because they are just interested in the KPIs and the figures that the organization wants to show to the publicity in order to increase their stock price, right?
Right. Last question. What advice do you give to people, or what can you tell the listeners? So my organization is called Raise the Bar.
Stay open-minded, don't judge, and allow people to be the way they are. If you are able to not judge on people's behavior, if you are able to not judge on certain things happening in the world, then you just get to the point where you say, it is as it is. From a spiritual perspective, everything is just as it is. The judgment comes always from us. We make the things happening good or bad by our judgment. And it is much easier for us to be happy and also, I think, successful the less we judge.
Where would you like people to, or how can people contact you or reach out, or how can we connect with you?
Well, I have my website, which is Markus with a K and then -Ernsten, ERNSTEN.com. Then I have my LinkedIn profile. I have a Facebook page. I'm not yet on Instagram. I'm going to build it up within the next weeks.
So I have the link here on YouTube when we post it on YouTube, and then when we post it to Apple and to Spotify, the link will be in the description to the website. Thank you so much, Markus. It's great to have you on here, giving us your wisdom. Any last words for our listeners before we let you go?
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Juan, for having me. It was really a pleasure talking to you tonight. and big fun as well. And I wish you all the best with your initiative. That's really, I think, a worthwhile thing to do. And that's pretty much in line with what I call a good cause. I like that. And to all the listeners, I would just say, whatever happens in the world, believe in you, continue believing in you, and don't let anyone tell you that there is anything that you can't do.
Beautiful. Thank you, Markus. I've enjoyed our time together. We will talk to you again soon. To the listeners, remember to always raise the bar and take yourself to that next level. But if you want to raise the bar and take yourself to the next level, you have to pull yourself up. And in order to pull yourself up, you have to raise that bar. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we will see you on the next episode.